Hello, you're watching Venture Capital. I'm Katie Pilbeam. This week, Greece's state television went back on air, but Athens is still being weighed down by its finances. Plus, the Max Air Show coming to Moscow next week. We're going to be checking out what's going to be roaring through the skies. Our in-house investor, Sean Thomas, he's poised at the business desk to tell us all about what he's been up to this week. He nearly lost his shirt last week. Let's see if he's fully clothed. Added to that, corporate news. But first, Libya's oil industry, the country's lifeline, is in danger of destruction as port guard strikes continue to disrupt the country's exports, with an estimated loss of $1.6 billion. Now, lawlessness at the ports has been caused by competition between members of the newly placed Petroleum Facilities Guard, made up of ex-militia members fighting amongst themselves over the selling of the country's oil for personal gain. Now, the country is reliant on oil exports, accounting for 95% of all output. The OPEC producers' shipments have been cut to their lowest level since the civil war of 2011, with some estimating just 300,000 barrels a day are being shipped out of the country now. So for more insight into the Libyan oil industry and the economy as a whole, I'm joined by Stuart Elliott from Platts. What challenges face Libya right now, both their oil industry and their economy?
It's fair to say that Libya's oil sector at the moment is in a total state of chaos. Remember, 3 of the main export terminals for oil are now shut, have been for 3-4 weeks, and that's cutting off Libya's economic lifeline, its oil exports. Exports down by more than half now with those terminals shut. And there doesn't seem to be any let-up to the protests, to the strikes at these terminals.
And how do you see this situation developing then? Can the oil industry rebound from this?
At the moment, it does seem like there's a stalemate, and the problem really facing Libya too is that there is no proper functioning government, there's no proper functioning army, and there's no proper functioning police force. So it's very difficult for the government to, say, go in and break up these strikes, these protests, because no one knows who's on whose side. I was told earlier this week that even in Tripoli, the government doesn't seem to have full control of the country. There are militias in control of certain checkpoints, and so the government really isn't functioning properly to make sure that a recovery to the oil sector can take place. Now, obviously, that's a major problem, and it could actually get worse because a lot of Libya's oil production is in the east of the country, where tribal warlords seem to have taken control of some of the fields. Now, you could argue that this is a new breed of resource regionalism, where normally a country will take control of its own oil in order to make the most of the profits from it and push out foreign companies. But this is rather different. It seems that in Libya it's being divided up by region, and that could be very, very dangerous for Libya. It's almost pushing it back towards some kind of civil war where people in the east and the west are divided, and the oil sector could go with it.
Stuart Elliott from Platts, thank you very much. Greece is now switched on. Not when it comes to their finances, but the country's public news channel is back on air. 500 people have been hired on a 2-month contract for the new state broadcaster EDT. That has taken over from the previous AX channel ERT. Now, that channel was shut down to cut government costs, and 2,700 people were fired in the process. So finally, some positive news for Greece. But just like a good TV drama, there's also some bad news for Greece this week as well. The country is in need of another bailout. That's according to the German finance minister. Mr. Wolfgang Schäuble says there will be no debt reduction for Athens, and that given the country's latest growth figures show the country is still in recession, and the fact that the Greek economy has slumped 23% since the 2008 financial crisis, another cash injection is looking ever more likely. Now, this will be the 3rd time international lenders have stepped in with a rescue package for the country. And considering the German elections are just a month away now, the sheer mention of Greece is a blow for Chancellor Angela Merkel, who has tried to keep the topic out of her campaign so far. And now time for some corporate news then. The drama surrounding the collapse of the biggest potash cartel in the world continues. Major Belarusian producer Belarus-Kali is now considering suing its Russian partner Uralkali for unfair business practices. Falling aluminium prices have led to total losses of almost $460 million for the biggest producer of the metal in the world, Rusal. The company's board of directors has already agreed to close production in 4 factories. And Carlsberg's Russian market has shrunk 7% in value so far this year. The Danish brewer now expects a decline of 5% for the rest of 2013. The summer sales to thank for the slightly smaller drop there. And time to check out with our markets. And I wanted to mention the fact that this week, the NASDAQ, the second largest stock exchange in the US, stopped trading for 3 hours. That was after a technical glitch, but the Russian markets, they've been in full working order, so we're all right our end. We've got our Sean Thomas right here, in-house investor. Just to remind everyone, you're a journalist, you're a news presenter, you're not a professional trader, but we've given you $10,000 US. What are you up to? Tell us. It was a bit of a nightmare last week, wasn't it, with the metals?
Well, yeah. Well, the metals, I'm so glad that I got out because, again, they've just been falling and crashing, showing a little bit of sign of kind of a rally. But I'm glad that I got out when I did because, you know, I want to remain fully clothed, as you mentioned. But I'm going to keep an eye on it because they're showing some sign of action, but not enough for me to get back in just yet.
Right. Long way to go, I think, with the metal industry. Absolutely. Been watching the Rusal situation that I mentioned earlier very closely. What else have you been up to? What other stocks are you watching, Sean? Tell us what you've been doing with yourself, with your money.
Indeed. Well, remember last week we talked about energy and specifically the oil markets. And I decided because there was a little bit of movement from Gazprom that I was going to go ahead and get in. Gazprom is up. That's a good sign. So not only do I remain fully clothed, but I'm even wearing pants. I know you can't tell from the shot, but it is true. Below the waist, I'm also still clothed because the oil markets are doing well. And in fact, partially because of what, you know, what's happening in Libya, what's happening in Egypt. Also, the U.S. job market is actually showing some growth as well, which is good because, you know, America, they like themselves some oil. So that's all helping with the oil, and that's helping me do well in this whole little endeavor that we've got going on.
Fantastic, Sean. So oil is the way forward with all the chaos and tumultuous behaviour going on around the globe, in the Middle East for sure. What have you got up your sleeve for next week, though, Sean? I want to know more. You've got a lot of money. This isn't just a game.
No, it's not a game. Well, here's the deal, all right? Remember, I'm coming at this from a news perspective and from a common sense perspective, at least what I think is common sense. And I'm a boy. I like airplanes. And what's happening in Russia right now with the Max Air Show, I'm thinking planes, air, there's lots of enthusiasm, lots of energy there. Not to mention Aeroflot specifically. Like I was traveling this week and I saw that they're in the process of getting ready to launch a budget carrier around Russia. So I'm thinking Aeroflot and transportation because A, planes are just cool. And they get you places. And if I want to get places, I'm going to go with Aeroflot to look at that one for the coming week.
I must say, Sean, just from a personal point of view, I'm actually really excited about this budget airline. If it means cheap flights, more holidays, I'm all for it. But as I understand it, Sean, the Russian market had some good news this week in terms of investment. Indeed.
In fact, the Russian market, investors, like foreign investors into the Russian market, have increased 60%. And I'm going to say that I think it's because of us and this little project that we have going. I'm going to take a little bit of credit for this one.
I would like to think so, Sean. That would be brilliant for our egos. But listen, enjoy the air show next week. I'm really looking forward to it myself. I think we're going to see some crazy stuff in the skies. I'm a little bit scared of flying myself, but I'm just going to be watching from the ground. And in terms
don't be scared. It's all science. It's all sound science. They've been doing it for 100 years or so. Go on up. Have some fun.
No, it's scary, but it's pretty, so that's all I care about. But Sean, thank you ever so much, and good luck with the Aeroflot, and stick with the oil and get well away from the metals. I think you're doing the right thing there, Sean. Sean Thomas there, thank you for that insight. And staying with the air show then, the MAX 2013, Moscow's International Aviation and Space Salon, will indeed take off next week. It's a chance for aviation enthusiasts and businessmen to get together and watch some air acrobats. So what can we look forward to then? And what business deals will be on the table? We've got Alexei Yaroshevsky right here to tell me all about it. And you went to like a pre-show thing.
A rehearsal flight.
Right, OK. And how did it go? What did you see? And
lots of planes taking off, military planes, passenger planes. It's amazing when you walk down the runway and you can see a Tupolev 204 performing stunts right above your head. It's amazing. It's
yeah, that is
crazy
amazing.
Show.
And what about the business side of things, though? Because are we talking deals?
Has it always been with the MAX Air Show? Last time, it's held every 2 years. So last time in 2011, it was deemed a very big success. It was the record amount of deals worth more than $10 billion struck. One deal in particular was a mega deal, $6 billion worth of MS-21 mid-range passenger planes, which can carry around 200 people. And it's close in comparison to Airbus A320 or Boeing 737. So they actually sold more than 50 planes to Russian companies, which was eventually worth $6 billion. So this time, experts are predicting even a bigger success, despite what seems to be a less spectacular show. Last time we had the presentation of A380 Airbus. We had the presentation, first time ever, T-50 top secret new 5th generation fighter jet made by the Sukhoi Bureau. So it was obviously the big deal back in 2011. This time it will be maybe less spectacular, but everyone is expecting big deals as well, because there will be several.
That's the interesting thing, because I have heard a lot about the fact that it's not going to be as big, not as spectacular, and Mr. Putin's not going to be there, but you say it's going to be more money.
So people think that if Putin is not going there, then you have to downplay the significance.
Yeah.
It's not the case. I mean, there will be several new planes presented, transport planes made by the Ilyushin constructors. Also, there will be several helicopters, brand new, presented. Nobody knows how this will go. Maybe the people, the businessmen there, will be so impressed with these new planes that they will just decide to sign deals at this very moment. But what I've heard so far from the experts, from both financial experts and aviation experts, that there will be lots of deals and even probably surpass the 10 billion mark, which was set in 2011.
Whoa. And will there be lots of acrobats in the sky then? Are we expecting to see lots of fun, lots of switching around and things?
As usual, 240 planes will be on the ground, stationed for the people to watch, obviously the businessman, and then we'll have the final day of the MAX show where the general population will be allowed inside and they will be able to see for themselves. And all this time we'll see shows up in the air. More than 140 planes will take off.
Wow.
The one highlight also will be the Chinese group of air acrobats performing their show. Interesting thing here, it's peculiar that their show was financed by the Russian government. Putin said we need to help the Chinese people to have their show on MAX, and please finance their show during the salon, and that's what happened. They paid 28 million rubles for the Chinese group to come over to Moscow and have their show here.
Wow,
it'll be
lucky
fun to
them.
watch.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. Alexei Yaroshevsky, thank you for that. All looks very exciting. Looking forward to it. But that's it for Venture Capital for this week. I'll be back next week talking about the G20 summit. We're going to be gearing up with all the details on that one. So join me then if you can.